I see. All right, so Grizzly, hold on, before we get into it, I want to introduce you to this spot anyway, all right? Now, this is a dance team like looking from all across the world.
I know what happened.
Okay, wasn't you just talking to her? Can she provide all them information to you?
Well, let me ask you this. I was just talking to her. What if she told me that you beat the out of her and you jumped on top of her and started punching her in the face? Should I just go ahead and take that?
Okay, but don't you know?
It's your side of the story. Give your side.
These prescriptions, but you want to be great. Being great is really pushing the envelope. You know what I'm saying?
Gervonta Tank Davis has finally broken his silence after reports of his arrest and the cancellation of the Jake Paul fight. The lightweight star is now at the center of a new civil lawsuit accusing him of serious domestic violence. His camp has only released a few short comments so far, while promoters review the situation. The November 14th Jake Paul event now hangs in limbo as investigations continue.
So, by all means, if they make a few quid and nobody gets hurt, then great. But I certainly wouldn't be paying a penny to watch it. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous, farcical. Who wants to watch an exhibition? Gervonta Davis is in his prime years. Why is he wasting his time? Why is he having a rematch with the fella he got a draw with? Why is he not fighting? Why is he not going up a weight and fighting Lopez and Garcias and them fighters? Why is he fighting Jake Paul in an exhibition? I get the money's great, but he's in the prime years. This is his best year. This is where he can become. Maybe you don't want to be an all-time great. Maybe you don't want to do all that stuff. Maybe you just want to.
Filed in Miami-Dade, the civil lawsuit accuses Davis of battery, aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and causing emotional distress. If any of this proves true, it would be a huge legal and career blow. For now, this remains a civil case, not a criminal one. No fresh criminal charges connected to the new claims have been filed at this stage.
WBC lightweight world champion Gervonta Tank Davis was arrested earlier this week for a closed fist slapping his daughter's mother. What's a closed fist slap? Is it like this? Bro, you can't be closed fist slapping women. You can't be slapping women at all. But don't you know your hand is like Thor's hammer? Bro, you can go to jail for even flicking somebody, man. Don't you got a fight coming up? Or are you trying to ruin your career?
So far, Davis hasn't issued a detailed public statement. His coach briefly said that Davis is fine and that the team is trying to understand what's happening. Meanwhile, Jake Paul's most valuable promotions confirmed that it launched an internal review once the lawsuit came out. The group condemned all violence and said it would decide what to do next after learning the full facts. Reports from insiders suggest the November 14th fight will likely be canceled rather than postponed. The bout was supposed to take place in Miami's State Farm Arena, ideal for a clash between a social media celebrity and a world champion.
When a fairly novice Jake Paul made a wish list of future opponents, and right in the middle of that list was Gervonta Tank Davis. Many laughed at the time, and some still can't believe we're here. But these two young men are the face of boxing for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They are the two biggest boxers in America, and they are putting it all on the line. One has the speed, the skill, the accuracy, and the one-punch knockout power. The other has the size, the force, and the unbreakable confidence to make this must-see Netflix. The size difference.
The fight setup added more intrigue. Davis, a natural lightweight fighting around 135-140 pounds, was going to face Paul, who often competes near cruiserweight. Press events revealed that both men agreed on a 195-pound cap and 12-ounce gloves. Davis raised questions about the rules, the weight difference, and the overall show. Still, a sold-out crowd could have made it one of the year's biggest spectacles.
Watch is Tank Davis versus Jake Paul. I want Tank Davis to knock his block off. I'm sick of the Paul brothers, both of them. I can't stand either one of them. And I know I'll get pounded with emails. You're just jealous. No, I'm not jealous of them. I could care less how much money they make. I don't like their attitude. I don't like the way they conduct themselves. I don't like the way they think.
Many boxing fans online are now growing skeptical of Gervonta Davis. They claim he keeps avoiding elite names like Shakur Stevenson or Teofimo Lopez and instead chases easier, high-paying fights such as Jake Paul. Critics say his motivation looks more financial than competitive, choosing money over legacy.
We wouldn't go ever fight no Shakur Stevenson, no Keyshawn Davis, no Teofimo Lopez, no none of them dudes. You know what I'm talking about? We gotta think and look at Tank Davis's whole career. He done made some bread, but at the end of the day, all that bread that he made, when it's all said and done, he ain't gonna get no respect from his peers, because we gonna look down his resume and we gonna be like, he was trash, he was some trash, he was some trash, he was alright, but he was never like that. He was okay. He was some trash, he was some trash.
Originally, Davis was supposed to fight Roach again after their first match ended in a controversial draw. The rematch was meant to settle unfinished business and strengthen Davis's record. But once Jake Paul's team offered a far bigger payday and global attention, plans changed. Reports say Davis could make up to $50 million for fighting Paul. Commentators note that modern boxing often values massive pay-per-view numbers more than defining victories. For Davis, this fight would test both his brand power and ring dominance.
He's in a division where he's got killers all in his division. You know, Shakur, Haney, who's 147. You know, you look at Tio, for example, Keyshawn, and then you choose to fight someone like Paul. Surely that's a concern when you do look at it like that.
Yeah, but again, it's the world we're in. If you can get huge amount of money to fight someone who's never boxed really before, you're going to do it. You know, Floyd Mayweather boxed Logan Paul with a huge weight disparity.
He was done by then.
No,
he was done. Like, this is an active world champion.
But it's the world we're in.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. You know, when it comes down to it. It's just like Conor McGregor fighting Floyd Mayweather. Two completely different sports. Was the biggest pay-per-view in recent times, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Maybe if ever.
Those are like different comparisons, though, if you think about it. Do you not like...
Yeah, but the sport's in a wild place, isn't it? That's just, like, I'm just like the reality of where we are, you know. And I can't really say much when we're talking about Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Do you think Tank should get stripped of his title?
Yeah, I think anyone who, just in general, doesn't defend their title to do something else should get stripped, because it shouldn't hold the belts up. Yeah. You know, in any, like, I think that should be the reality in anything. You know, if you're not going to defend your belts, or you're not defending, sometimes there's the rules, obviously, if you fight for a belt at a higher weight, you can retain the belt until there. But if you're not, don't have intention of defending the belts, you shouldn't hold the belts up. People should get the opportunity to fight for them.
What happened with the failed negotiations between AJ and Jake Paul?
I think anything's still possible. That was always discussed for next year. You know, this fight's November.
Former world champion Carl Froch didn't hold back, calling the situation ridiculous. He claimed that a Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight was nearly finalized, about 99% done, but Paul backed away to face Davis, who's half his size. Froch said that decision shows Paul cares more about attention than genuine challenges. Many boxing insiders agree that Jake picks fights for headlines, not danger. Facing Joshua would have been historic. Facing Davis feels more like a sideshow.
But the fight against Jake Paul ain't going to happen anyway. It ain't going to happen. We can all believe it. Jake Paul... Eddie Hearn said he's 99% done. Because, you know what? Jake Paul's done a great job in hustling Eddie. Yeah. He's going to get... So either Eddie's in on it, or he's let this young man hustling. Yeah. And so the kids kidded the kidders. Well, listen, we've had a chat, we've caught up. We'll have another chat as well in I'm going to do some sunbathing, man. Days, bit of sunbathing. Top up the town. Yes, I do. Might as well. Blake is an amber.
Let us know in the comments below who you think wins the fight and what Anthony Joshua should be doing next. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Let us know in the comments below. This has been another episode of Froch on Fighting. Got the main man here, Johnny Nelson, aka Blickman. We'll see. He said it, not me. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Just here at Los Naranjos in Viva, España, and I found out that Gervonta Davis is now fighting Jake Paul. So Jake Paul was supposed to be fighting AJ. Eddie Hearn announced 99% done, which we've just spoke about. What next for AJ? Potentially Jake Paul. But it now looks like that Jake Paul is fighting one of Anthony Joshua's legs. He's fighting Gervonta Davis, somebody who's a quarter of his size. I don't even know what's going on.
Nakisa Badarian, co-founder of Most Valuable Promotions, brushed off size concerns about Jake Paul fighting Gervonta Davis. He said the catch weight was needed only because Jake is still learning. Bedarian revealed the matchup had been discussed for years, ever since a Canelo-Alvarez fight fell through. According to him, Davis had always wanted this fight, and once the Canelo talks failed, everything lined up perfectly for Paul versus Tank.
And Tank are gonna happen November 14th.
Whatever weight they want, man, they're talking about it, and whatever it is, there's gonna be a definitive outcome. People can talk about pro, exhibition. We're gonna make sure this is as real as it's real.
Why was it, just out of curiosity, why is it not a professional bout and why is it an exhibition? Because I'm sure Jake would have taken the professional bout.
Nothing's been communicated as yet in terms of what it is, right? Similar to, if you remember with Paul Tyson, when we announced it, we didn't have the weight, we didn't have the rules, particularly in terms of the number of rounds, the minutes, the gloves. It's gonna be the same thing here.
Gotcha. Can you just offer us any insight as to how these negotiations went? The reason I ask is because I remember back in March, I was at Tank's fight, and after his fight at his press conference, he was asked, next opponent. He said, well, my next opponent might have been in my locker room tonight, and people asked him, was it Jake? He made reference, he made allusion to. Has this been an ongoing thing, and has it ever, been at a point where it wasn't gonna happen and came back, or was this always the plan?
Always been the plan for Jake to fight Tank once Canelo didn't happen. And to Tank's credit, he's a real bad dude, and he's been calling out Jake for 3 years. And people, it's funny how now they're saying size matters, Jake is big, when for so long it's been Tank would kill Jake Paul.
Bedarian admitted the physical gap is clear. Paul is taller, heavier, and has more reach, but he insisted that Davis's experience and talent outweigh that. Tank has over a decade of pro experience, multiple world titles, and knockout power. He adapts fast, moves sharply, and reads opponents well. Jake, meanwhile, is still improving and hasn't faced a top-tier fighter like Davis yet, which makes this a major step up in skill level.
But so is the skill and experience difference. One man has been doing this for 23 years, since the age of 7. The other picked up the sport 5 years ago and has virtually no amateur experience. So the size difference is what makes this plausible. The king of the jungle here is Tank Davis. He is the lion taking on the young elephant that is Jake Paul. The lion is looking at me like he's about to eat me. The lion is fast, he's fierce, and he's fatal when he strikes. But the young elephant is big, powerful, and hard to knock down. And come Friday, November 14th, the jungle will be set in tropical Miami, Florida. And
commentator Joe Rogan acknowledged Jake Paul's impact in bringing new fans to boxing, but doubts he's ready for someone like Davis. Rogan pointed out that Jake's biggest wins were over fighters who were retired or past their prime. Davis represents elite speed, timing, and knockout skill. Rogan believes business success can't protect Jake once the bell rings. No followers can take punches for him. He respects Jake's boldness, but says this fight finally puts him in with a young, dangerous, and fully active professional.
It's like, what if Jake Paul knocks one of them out? Like, what if you get a guy that hasn't been tested and maybe has some promise and maybe gets wrapped up in the hype and maybe gets a little nervous, and this is his first chance at a big show, and Jake Paul can crack.
Yeah.
100%. That knockout of Tyron Woodley is legit as fuck. He can crack.
But Eddie's point in that interview, and I think the point that just about every boxing aficionado would say, is that Tyron
lose because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinching? You ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight. Can he drop a heavyweight? There's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks...
The answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah. But if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion in multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel?
on the inside as boxers, me and, Chris Algieri, the champ, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience. So we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you, you're probably going down if you're a small guy, if he hits you clean. So we know the risk, but how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public, so there is a lot to lose though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing. And I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you make him earn his spot?
Twice. Big numbers. Jake Paul fought against Tommy Fury. Big numbers. Jake Paul, who I believe, and I have told you guys this time and time again, he's much better than people give him credit for. One, Jake Paul is not an amateur fighter, like some try to say. Jake Paul has money, so Jake Paul is getting trained by the best boxing coaches that money can buy. He's full-time boxing. There are a lot of people that say he may do some other stuff. I don't know who he was gonna fight that was saying that he was juiced up and he was ignoring him. Or was it Logan Paul? One of them. But at the end of the day, this kid's training to be the best fighter in the world, or the best as he can be, and he understands what losing would do to the perception of who he is in fighting. We were yelling so much about him fighting someone. Fight somebody your size. Fight somebody, a real boxer. Stop fighting MMA guys. There were so many things that people were mad about in regards to his level of competition and the people he was competing against. Well, today we learned that Jake Paul has his next opponent. His next opponent is by far